Hi, welcome to Take 5, where we daily consider devotional thoughts from Oswald Chambers' book, My Utmost for His Highest. Today is September 2nd. The title of today's devotional is A Life of Pure and Holy Sacrifice. He who believes in me, out of his heart will flow. John 7 and verse 38. Chambers opens, Jesus did not say, he who believes in me will realize all the blessings of the fullness of God, but in essence, he who believes in me will have everything he receives escape out of him. Our Lord's teaching was always anti-self-realization. I looked up self-realization and found it strongly connected with yoga and Eastern religions. Yogapedia says self-realization is a term used in Eastern religions, yoga philosophy, physiological theories, and other spiritual schools of thought. It denotes a state in which an individual knows who they truly are and is fulfilled in that understanding. Self-realization is fulfillment of what self wants. Returning to Chambers, he says that Christ was anti-self-realization, anti-self-emphasis. Chambers defines the purpose of Christ as not the development of a person. His purpose is to make a person exactly like himself, and the Son of God is characterized by self-expenditure. It takes a moment to grasp that word, but it has to do with letting out, the releasing of self to God. Chambers continues, if we believe in Jesus, it is not what we gain, but what He pours through us that really counts. God's purpose is not simply to make us beautiful, plump grapes, but to make us grapes so that He may squeeze the sweetness out of us. Isn't that interesting? It's not the filling of us, but the squeezing us out for His glory that God does. O.C. says, our spiritual life cannot be measured by success as the world measured it, but only by what God pours through us, and we cannot measure that at all. The world around us has no interest in or consideration of spiritual matters and spiritual growth. Lost man is about self, not God. O.C. reflects on an act performed by Mary of Bethany when she broke the flask of very costly oil and poured it on Jesus' head. It was an act for which no one else saw any special occasion. In fact, there were some who said, why was this fragrant oil wasted? John notes in his gospel account that it was Judas Iscariot, the treasurer of the group, who got the most upset, for it was his habit of stealing from the group. Dr. C continues, but Jesus commended Mary for her extravagant act of devotion and said, wherever this gospel is preached, what this woman has done also will be told as memorial to her. Our Lord is filled with overflowing joy whenever He sees any of us doing what Mary did, not being bound by a particular set of rules, but being totally surrendered to Him. God is filled with joy when He sees His children stepping out to do something that might seem quite ordinary, but the doing of it in His name makes it extraordinary. Chambers reminds us God poured out the life of His Son that the world through Him might be saved. And then he asks, are we prepared to pour out our lives for Him? The average listener may be wondering, how could my life be poured out for Him? And Chambers responds, he who believes in me, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water, and hundreds of other lives will be continually refreshed. The answer contained there is quite simple. The more we allow ourselves to be filled with Him, the natural outcome will be our spilling over of blessings onto others. We need not wonder how or where He will accomplish it. Our role is to be filled with Him and not self. Life is not self-actualization, but Christ-actualization. O.C. closes with, now is the time for us to break the flask of our lives, to stop seeking our own satisfaction, and to pour out our lives before Him. Our Lord is asking who of us will do it for Him. Likely it was an impulsive act on Mary's part to grab up the jar of perfume and break it upon Jesus, and those around her both misunderstood it and considered it wasteful. I say this to point out that what God directs you to do may seem unusual and spontaneous, and not easily understood, perhaps even wasteful, yet there's purpose and reason behind it. Here's the point. Listen and obey. Judas was concerned about money and self. Mary saw a way to glorify God, and she quickly took it. Be sensitive to his leadership, even if you don't understand his works at that moment. And now may God's grace and peace be ours as we seek to live our utmost for his highest. Have a good day. Thanks for being here. See you tomorrow. Bye now.